Thank you for listening to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please support the show by subscribing to and leaving a 5-star rating for the show on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and any of your favorite podcast platforms. You can also support the show by going to our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, where there's always exciting articles by the B&G writing staff. While you're there, don't forget to click on the fanatics.com banner for a great sports fan shopping experience.
Hey, are you done yet? We gotta start the show.
Behind the net to Sanderson, Orr! Bobby Orr! Orr from the Boston Bruins!
30 seconds left in the period. The Bruins are shorthanded. Ray Bourque.
Ray Bourque from the face-off circle to the right of Reggie Whitman. Fired it down and Whitmore blew it.
Did he ever?
To Bergeron on the drive, save, rebound, he's loose. Sagan kicks him loose. Bergeron scores! The Priest Bergeron with the point of the dagger in their throats. They rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast. The Boston Bruins have won it after being 3 down in the third.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, presented by the Black and Gold Hockey Productions Podcast Network, and also sponsored by Bet Online. Go to betonline.ag and enter code CLNS50. Today is November 22nd, 2020, and it is episode 204. I'm your host, Matt Barry, and I am joined each week by Heather Ingerson. Hello, Heather.
Hello, boys.
Hi there. And also Mark Allred. Hi, Mark.
What is up, people? Here to talk some hockey. I'm absolutely pumped for this. It's a miserable Sunday outside the Black and Gold studio, so we're here. We got a nice long agenda to talk about some bees and some related news just to keep the content going. So we love doing this shit.
We absolutely do. It's been really good to be able to come up with some creative ideas to keep the content flowing. We've been doing a really good job with that, and our listeners have been doing a good job giving us some ideas and bantering back and forth with us. We appreciate everyone listening every week. And right now, Mark has a few words about Bet Online.
I do, but before we do the Bet Online ad read, I just want to maybe for the folks that don't always pay attention to the end of the show or put up with us until then. But I do want to say that our Patreon campaign is going on. And just want to say we have a new item. We're going to be doing monthly giveaways, and it's a signed Boston Bruins jersey from either a current player or an alumni. And right now, I'll show you what came in the mail yesterday. This is an Anders Bjork signed jersey. You can't see it because this stupid thing, but it's got a certificate of authenticity. And it's really nice. Great item. So we're going to be doing a jersey giveaway once a month. So get involved in that. Go to patreon.com/Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Get involved. It's only $1. But to our show sponsor, betonline.ag, there is NFL football continues this week, which has a few surprise teams at the top of the standings, and you might not be at the game this year, but you can still be in on the action at betonline.ag. No matter how schedules change or players that play, betonline.ag is going the extra mile to make sure you get in on every game this season with the fastest updated odds in the industry. There are always more options to wager than anywhere online. Head over to betonline.ag today and take advantage of all the great mid-season bonuses, offers, and contests. And please don't forget to use promo code CLNS50. That's CLNS50. BetOnline.ag, online wagering experts.
Thank you, Mark. And we also actually want to start today's agenda, giving a shout out to our buddies at Dump and Change. The Dump and Change podcast, part of the B&G Productions Podcast Network, and Nick Busa and the boys over there actually looking to, make some, collect some money for a really good cause, showing your, so sort of along the same lines as the No Shave November, show your mustache. And Mark, I just wanted you to give a few words about the Thump and Change boys and what they're doing with this cause.
Fantastic hockey podcast. I highly suggest you go and follow them on Twitter. It's at @n_change. Like I said, great hockey podcast. Boston Bruins centric. And Nick, Jared, and Nestor, they all do a great job over there. But we do want to give a shout out because it is November and it is Cancer Awareness Month. So Nick Busa, whose father passed away in January. So Nick's dad passed away and he wanted to do something in his father's honor. So this was a great thing to do. So I don't have any details because I'm a slacker, but I don't know where folks can go to donate. I don't have a web address. I'm terrible. So does anybody
I'm sorry. If you follow their, follow them on social media, they have like a post. There's a link to the thing, I believe.
Right. And you can hashtag Movember, MOVEMBER, with your mustache picture as well. If you want to, support it in that way too.
Yeah. Shout out to those guys, man. They do a great job.
Awesome. Next item on the agenda, 92 years ago, Bruins played their first game at the old Garden, the old Boston Madison Square Garden, it was called in the beginning. Back in 1928, it was actually on November the 20th of 28. And they played the Montreal Canadiens, lost 1-0. But that was the first Bruins hockey game 92 years ago. And I wrote an article recently for blackandgoldhockey.com about some of my memories of the old Garden. I really do miss it. I miss the atmosphere. I miss being on top of the ice, the balconies going straight up and really hovering over the ice. There were some terrible seats in that place for sure. And there were some imperfections, to say the least. I remember the ramps walking along the top actually were slanting down. Almost felt like you could just fall over onto the ice. And the stickiness of the ground and some really weird things. And being behind a pole, my cousin actually had season tickets, and one of them was literally behind a pole. You had to lean forward to see, as much of the ice as you could. But it was still a great place. I remember how loud it was there. Just the atmosphere was tremendous. I think the Bruins lost a little bit of that when they moved into the new arena. And although a better place and a nicer arena, it sort of took away some of the advantage, I think, that the old Garden had. And it was, of course, the smaller ice surface too was a big deal, and the lack of air conditioning. I mean, there are a lot of nuances, but I just wanted to get you guys feel, and Heather, we can start with you on your memories of the old Garden.
Well, it was, like I said the other day, like it smelled disgusting and it was like kind of gross, and you thought you might die at North Station downstairs, maybe waiting for a train after. But remember, I know, like there's whole generations that don't remember those horrendous, like green line, like whatever scaffolding. I don't even know what it was. It was certainly unsafe, but we used it for most of my life until they ripped it down 10 years ago, whatever. But I don't know, just, it was a thing. And it was a great article that you wrote, and I'm glad. And it's like, it's so weird to think that there are kids that are almost 30 that have never, they didn't, but it wasn't just about the Bruins too. Although like at wrestling one time, I almost did fall over the balcony. We were like jumping and I hit that pole, and thank God my cousin Ryan saved my life by grabbing my jeans. Like, you know what I mean? He like grabbed me, but I don't know. Like you just don't, like, even just like the fights that would break out, like people just like, there was a time when legitimately Montreal and Boston fans would be, or Philly, like it would be a full on brawl. That's what you did in between periods. Like the Zamboni would be clearing the eyes and just like drunk hockey dudes stop fighting. That's great. Like, I don't know. It just, the smell, it's like, I can almost see it. And it kind of, I'm not sad though. You're right about the noise level, because I've only been in there a few times where it was as loud as it was back in the old Garden, because the acoustics are just different. But I really don't miss the ramps, the endless walking and walking and walking. If you've ever been to Gillette, sometimes you have to do that. Like, it's just, who nowadays, please, escalators, put them in. And I was so happy when they did that. But no, it was a great place from when I was a little kid, you'd go and watch escapades or whatever, mousecapades on there, or circuses or whatever. It was just like a event center, very important. And it was sad when it went, but I can't believe this building's as old as it is.
I know.
Crazy. Yeah, Mark, what do you remember about the old garden? It's actually been, 95. It's been 25 years for the new, the old Fleet Center and Shaman. I don't even know how many, names it had, but 25 years since the garden.
Yeah, real quick, it was a building that I grew up in. It was my first real experience into Boston sports. I wasn't a big baseball guy, so I never really went to Fenway when I was a kid. But my choice of venture when I went to watch was definitely the Boston Bruins and the Boston Garden. And 1928 was the first game in November at the Garden, but the Bruins' first game was in 1924 at Matthews Arena. They played there for quite some time in the old barn, and that's currently the where Northeastern plays right now. So some real good history of arenas back in the day. But no, the Garden was something special, man. Especially when the beginning of the season when the circus came around, because you could still smell the elephant shit for weeks on after the circus came in for and when they were out on the road. So yeah, it was 190 by 85 or 79, something like that. It was one of the smallest rinks in the league, alongside Buffalo, the old odd. So now that obviously the rinks have come up to standard, everybody has to have a sheet of 200 by 85. But it was just a very unique building. Like Matt said, you were right over the action. There was several times that I would be sitting real close to Fred Cusick and Derek Sanderson and just hear them talk. It was just amazing on how they called the game. And I truly miss those two, especially Fred Cusick. And he was just a mastermind behind the mic and the play-by-play, and just accompanied by Derek Sanderson, and the way that he could talk a game, because he lived through so many great memories himself. It was just an amazing experience to hear and see. So I miss the old Garden. And shout out to my buddy Dale. We were both landscaping for a company one time, and we were going down to Norwell, Mass, which is down South Massachusetts, and we would go by the Garden every day when it was getting torn apart. We drove our construction vehicles down there and just looked over to the right. We were on 93 and just saw them picking away at it. It was just a terrible sight, but we did stop in, and those guys, I was too much of a chicken shit, but those guys went in there and stole like big freaking hunks of bricks and threw them in the back of our dump trucks and took off. So there was some good memories, and my dad bringing me to several games, me and my brother. So and the old Garden, I think that was the first place I got high, because my dad bought such terrible seats. They were obstructed views, and he's like, come on, I got a better place. So you go up to the Gallery Gods where all those psychos were, and then right next to an older gentleman smoking a joint. So I'm probably I probably got high for the first time like a 12-year-old or something like that.
No, it's definitely
your eyes would burn.
Yeah,
your eyes would burn being in that building. Just cigar and cigarette and whatever. And like you.
That's not fog.
Yeah, it was not.
Although sometimes was fog.
Yes, true to that.
Well, the famous fog games in the Stanley Cup Finals, one had to be in the blackout too. I mean, that place was, of course, the old Celtics games where Kareem would have a migraine, and it would be 100 degrees in there, and they had no air conditioning, and it was just playing in toward the end of May and early June in the Garden was just like a sauna. But I do remember, though, as you said, Mark, driving by when you could actually look into the Garden, because they ripped the side of it off, and you could actually look into it, and it was just a bizarre view of seeing you just driving up the highway, and there's the Garden.
And literally 6 inches apart.
Yes,
both buildings were 6 inches apart. That was amazing. I can't even think of the word.
Yeah,
but engineering. Yes, that's the word. It's just I can't believe how they built one up 6 inches apart and knocked one down and without damaging anything. It was just a feat that was pretty cool. And
it's crazy. Next time on the agenda, NHL and NHLPA. Actually, they're heating up the talks on on what the salaries may look like this year. That there was already an agreement made, obviously, and the NHLPA is sort of balking at the owners trying to modify salaries and pay for this coming season. So it's created a little bit of an obstacle as far as starting the next season. So I just wanted to get your take. And Mark, we could start with you on if this could actually present an obstacle so much so that it delays or even jeopardizes the season.
There's a possibility here of a lockout, and I hate saying that. I really, really do. But there was an agreement that was made in the early parts of 2020 between the NHL and the Players Union about them not, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it kind of, agreement. And then they went on to the return to play in the playoffs and so on and did their thing. But now that there's no seats or no asses in the seats probably for this upcoming season, it's really putting the owners into a tough spot. So the owners have asked the Players Union to please come back on your contracts or the escrow a little bit and, try to work with them to try to save the league. But the players took this as a slap in the face, actually, and said that, the owners promised this and promised that, but now they're, changing things around. So they didn't like that. But there's ongoing discussions about this topic. So, which is good that they're moving forward, trying to get this done. But it's not going to be easy when you can't put fans in the stands, and I totally get it. But I can sympathize somewhat with Jeremy Jacobs and what he's doing as a businessman, because his business is predominantly on concessions and everything like that. But an owner, like I was talking about this on Sportscaster last night, that an owner like the Winnipeg Jets can make $8 billion from March till now. So, but that's in a totally different business than going up and grabbing a hot dog and a beer. It's totally different. So there is things that are going to be happening. I hope it works out. I hope we can come to a common ground, because a lockout of any kind, or even talking about it, is cringeworthy. But you kind of can understand, as a common worker myself, I'd hate for my boss to come in and say, hey, I'm going to promise you that raise, and then come in 6 months later and say, hey, we can't do it. That's not going to be, it's not going to sit very well with certain people. So hopefully it gets worked out. There's still a little bit of time, but we're starting to get closer to the end of November and December, when these guys are coming back into the country and for a potential start in early January. So, it's got to get done sooner rather than later. But with this being said, it possibly could be a mid-January start to the next season. So we'll see what happens.
Heather, are you concerned that it may not be hockey?
I'm always concerned with the NHL because labor disputes often, it's really sad that in 5 months, and we've gone from, oh my God, they did their new CBA. And I do have the PDF. I just didn't get a chance to relook through it to remember the actual numbers that were supposed to be over the next few years for the escrow or whatever. I guess where I stand on this is I definitely understand the owner's point of view, because this is a gate-driven league. So even Jacobs, who I've spent half of my life hating, I understand this dude is selling property and stuff, just trying to keep the major, so that the Bruins he doesn't have to sell them, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So on one hand, I understand that, but I also think, especially this year, how can you put the players in a position after everybody did what they were supposed to make sure a cup was awarded, everybody's, whatever, all this, you agreed, and they are the most underpaid professional athletes, you know what I mean, as it goes per capita, you know what I mean? I just don't think it's fair that your employee, what you get paid, is directly related to what your owners want to share with you, because now they're asking you to give up 15% of the escrow you just won in this new agreement, even if it is just for this year. And that's a hard sell. And this is why the UFAs and RFAs are getting screwed with their contracts, because sure, you might be worth 9 million, but you're not getting more than 7. You can't, and things like that. And now and even that, you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what you're agreeing to. So you want me to give you an extra 15% of my escrow, whatever logistics of all that is. And I don't know, you're going to realign all the divisions, which might be fun and okay for a 60-game season or whatever. But we don't know if you're going to, like we talked about, maybe quarantine them together kind of ish. They can still travel, but whatever. Cause I know the owners want them in their own building so they can sell advertising, at least on the boards and stuff, and try to recoup. It's just a hot mess. But I do have a feeling, especially this year, given the circumstances, instead of the owners, they always, before the players can strike, will do a lockout. Do you know what I mean? They always do it every time. This time, the players, I think, have all the power. And I think it's all of us getting through this together isn't now I get more fucked because you're fucked. Do you know what I mean? That's not how it works. It's just not how it works. Even if your business goes under, a major corporation, you cut severance pay and stuff like that. You don't, I don't know. That's just me. Sorry, Matt, how do you feel?
I think that the players have seen the salaries already starting to lower because of what happened in the offseason with negotiations of free agents. So guys like Jake DeBrusk and a guy like Craig Smith, who signed with the Bruins, got less than they probably would have in a more normal situation. So a year or two ago, Craig Smith probably makes $1 million or $2 million more per year, but now you're already seeing the average salaries going down. You're also seeing that this is not going to last just this year. It's going to last another couple of years before things get really back to normal. So if you're a free agent coming up the next off season, you're looking at another scenario where, the average salary is going to go down even further. And I think the players really will kind of want to stop the bleeding here a little bit and say, okay, wait a minute, like we'll make concessions, but we also had an agreement and we want to stick to the agreement. I mean, I would think that they would come up to some sort of arrangement or agreement with it, or some sort of modification that they both can agree on. The only problem I see is that if the owners sort of, stick their feet in the sand and don't really move on from it, then it could cause an issue where you may not have a season or a delay in the season. And I don't know, like at first glance, I think, well, how could they possibly cancel the season? But then I think to myself, well, if they're not getting revenues anyway from ticket gates and things, maybe the owners say, well, we're not going to make as much money anyway, so you might as well save money and not. I guess there's not as much of a sense of urgency than in a normal situation to have a season, because it's not a real season. It's not a real experience in a real situation. So I don't know. I guess it all depends on what the owners are looking at as far as saving money, or if they're really invested in having a season, too. That's the other thing. So it's going to be interesting as the further along it goes and the closer it gets to mid-January, because it's not that far away. I mean, it's less than 2 months away. So I don't know. It could turn either way. And as we've seen the NHL in the past, the owners and players sometimes create this tension between each other, and they don't work things out. There's a lot of things the NHL does that I never understand. And I think the players are really concerned about a bubble. And I think if you look at the NFL, they've had cases, tons of cases of COVID, and had to move games around, but they have the luxury of playing once a week. So if you're moving around city to city, you're bound to have COVID cases. And you also have guys in the minor leagues who really aren't playing because their teams aren't playing, so they're not working out or anything, or game speed working out. So can they fill the roster spots? I mean, it's kind of a mess in that way too. But you also have like 3 games a week. So can you move a game and then play? You can't play 5 straight nights to make up games. So it could be a little bit of a mess. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks if they can. I give it till like the next couple of weeks, and they should be able to come up with agreement. If it goes beyond that, then we're getting a little bit of a danger zone, I think, as far as when the season will start or if it will. So it can get a little scary. I'm not concerned right now as much, but I will be if it gets to be mid-December and they haven't come up with anything. So we'll see. So next item on the agenda is the North section of the ECHL has actually opted out. One of the Maine Mariners up here in Maine, as I live right near 15 minutes from the arena, and Maine Mariners are actually part of that group that's decided now, after saying they would start the season around then it was mid-January, then I think it was 1st of February, and now they're out. So that's another minor league that has opted out. And it's becoming more and more difficult for, like I said, these prospects to find places to play. And also, as far as the AHL is concerned, trying to get enough players ready so that there are COVID cases. So I don't know, Mark, you're the minor league guy, and it's very disappointing. It's disappointing for me being up here in Maine and being able to go down the street and see them play. And it really makes it more and more difficult for the young players in their development.
Yeah, it's tough. But this is the things that have to be done when you look at it as a business. Overhead costs are just not, like, most places are not even at half capacity, probably not even at 25%, which just, it drives your overhead prices over, and it's just not good business. And that's basically why the potential affiliation, with the air quotes, with the Atlanta Gladiators, and they opted out because of that reason. The Bruins were not affiliated with them at the end of this past year, when they ceased operations on the regular season and the Kelly Cup playoffs. But I heard a rumor that they were going to do another affiliation, but now that they opted out, that's no longer. They're talking with the Jacksonville Icemen right now in Florida, which their cases are just absolutely ridiculous and just continue to get higher in Florida, just a cesspool for the COVID. But this for me personally, this is not good news for the higher league, the American Hockey League, which is another league that survives on asses in the seats. And the Boston, it's very important to know that folks out there that continue to argue with me about this, the Providence Bruins are not owned by the Boston Bruins. It's an affiliation. It's business. It's one business and another business working together on affiliation. The Boston Bruins do not own the Providence Bruins. So if the AHL can't get support from the NHL, I think that the AHL is the next one that's going to be starting to freaking lose teams. And the NHL doesn't have money right now to support their affiliates or even, contracts, and what's going on in the future. So I can see the AHL doing something very similar. And I hate saying that. I remember a couple of weeks ago and a couple of podcasts ago, I mentioned that there was an idea that the NHL wanted their AHL affiliates to travel with them and kind of play like a session in the morning and then have a game at night, AHL in the morning, NHL at night. That would cost way too much for the NHL clubs to do. So that idea is completely out. So I would actually look for news that some teams might opt out in the AHL, and I hope it's not the Providence Bruins.
Yeah, I don't know. So Heather, I don't, it's hard to, I just worry about these prospects getting enough time to play hockey. So I don't know your thoughts on it.
Yeah. It's so hard because there's so many rules for different things. Depends on your prospects. Cause we'll talk about hockey still at a later, but that's a whole slew of kids that you're trying to get in the system. The kids in the system are running out of places where they might be able to play. And I'm starting to get very worried. This goes back to what you said about maybe the NHL, just like call it a season and let's not do it, because that would allow some players, right? Because like Mark said, we don't own the Bruins, but like a lot of our prospects are down there, but that gives leeway. I don't know this to be true. Maybe you could answer, but that would give leeway. Say the NHL doesn't play, the AHL isn't playing. How are they supposed to? They have no ECHL guys. They have no whatever. Let's all call it a COVID season and just not even bother, and we'll regroup. You know what I mean? It sucks, but maybe we can figure out some kind of content. But that would allow some people to go overseas who are playing and things like that. Can't they go on loan just like right now there are people playing because, right? So maybe if they want to look at the long term, it's not just about money. It's also about killing your product that's moving forward. And that canceling, it breaks my heart to see it, because then that means some people aren't coming back, just like a lot of other businesses, right, at this time. But the main goal of the NHL franchises is to save the AHL and figure out where to put their college kids, because now you got a lot of college kids that can't even play. The AHL guys aren't. Then, like you said, you got your third, if you got someone on the Maine Mariners, now you're, you know what I mean? So currently the Islanders, the Rangers, this is just the domino effect that we knew was going to happen. It breaks my heart, but it's almost like you know what can you do? I mean, half of these teams are in New England, and currently none of the New England states can travel to any of the other New England states, which, like, I live on the border. What is that for? You know what I mean? Like, literally, even if you had a team in this side and then you had one on the other side in Rockingham County, they literally are not allowed to travel without quarantining to each other. So maybe just in the long run, you take the hit now instead of creating a situation where you're just going to end up in more debt, trying to pull off with all the masks and the handing and the quarantining and the testing. And like, is it worth it? You have no money coming in. Why are you continuing to spend money? I can see with the cup, but it does break my heart because like these ECHL teams, some of them are coming back, but at the same time, do you blame these teams for opting out and not wanting to travel? The whole country is red right now with like spiking COVID numbers and stuff. It's just, I don't know. That's just to me. I am worried about the prospects. So maybe if some of these other season people get canceled, they can get loaned out to other places or signed to other places for a season, and they can still be skating at least and developing. Sorry, Matt. I don't know why that's so long-winded.
No, my thing is if you can't have people come to the games and pay, then it really doesn't make a lot of sense to have a minor league season because a lot of the revenue is based on ticket gate. So you can't play in front of empty arenas as a minor league team. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, the NHL can do it for a season or two or whatever, manipulate that, but the minor league system, you have to have people come in and pay and do the season packages and all that stuff. I mean, and all the revenue from the whatever it is, concessions and merchandising. And so if you have no revenue, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have a season. You really can't do it. And so I don't blame them for not being able to do it 100%. It's just going to be hard for some of these young guys to find other places to play and to stay fresh and that sort of thing. And it's too bad for a place like Maine, who doesn't have professional, major league, hockey or baseball or that type of thing. And so to have these minor league teams is great for the revenue here in the state of Maine and for the Portland area. So now you have people who don't, ushers and people who work at the arena who haven't worked an event in an arena for months, we're going on 12 months or whatever, 9 months. And so those people are all out of work, and there's a trickle down effect that goes to a lot of different people. And I know my dad's an usher at the Garden. He hasn't had an event since March, and not that he, it's a part-time retirement job for him, but there's other people who could really rely on that income. And it makes it difficult for a lot of people beyond the players, beyond the owners, beyond the organization itself. It really affects some of the economy in the community too. So it's just hard. So next on the agenda is Evan Marinovsky. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should at @Marinovsky. He's with CLNS Media. He covers the Bruins, excellent young reporter for them. And Evan has put out some different polls just to get the conversation going in the offseason here. And one of them was, who was the biggest disappointment for whatever reason for the Bruins in 1920 season? And he had, down the bottom of the list was Chara at 3%. Danton Heinen was on it, kick him on the way out, 6%. And then Nick Ritchie, 8%. And then I think it was David Backes at 17%. Again, we'll just kick him on the way out too. But the shocker of it all was 35% had Tuukka Rask as the big disappointment of the season. And I guess being second in the Vezina Trophy, nominations is just not good enough. I guess the expectation was to win the Vezina and obviously to win the Stanley Cup. And I guess with everything else that went on with him opting out during the playoffs, and Tuukka just hasn't really, there's a contingent of Bruins fans who it's like oil and water with Tuukka. I think he's the best goaltender they've ever had. And I think that he hasn't won. And there was the 2013 finals and Game 7 in 2019 and some situations where I guess he could have won, but it's a team sport and you can argue that back and forth. But it's just another case, Mark, of Tuukka not getting any of the love in Boston and people treating him. I saw another thing where it said that people they listed people that other players in other teams, and and who they would want. And Carey Price is up there. You would want Carey Price at 10 million over Tuukka Rask at 7 million. Then you're high. Then you don't understand hockey at all. Like, it's just insane. So Tuukka's been one of the best goalies in the league for a few years. And I don't know, Mark, you can give your thoughts on Bruins fans and their irrational thinking on Rask.
Numbers don't lie, folks. Just look at all his stats. Go to NHL.com, type in his name, and just look at all that goodness. Because, I mean, love him or hate him, he's a good goaltender. He's your franchise best goaltender in numbers. He might not have a cup. He's raised one. Big deal, you know? And this is an ongoing narrative. I'm a huge Tuukka supporter. I've been following him since even before the Toronto Maple Leafs drafted him, which is absolutely sick. I'm just a nutcase like that. But I know, I feel his ability. It's just, this is a team effort. And so many people love attacking me on this one. It's like, you know, Thomas won that cup. I was like, okay, so it was Tim Thomas versus 20 Vancouver Canucks, right? And it's like very silent after that, you know. So I get it that Timmy was a freaking unbelievable goaltender, and he's always going to be that guy that did it. And the last time that did it in 2011. So the standards are always going to be overly high. My thing is like, with all this Tuukka hate, it's coming to an end. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and I'm either like, I can't wait for this guy to get traded so you guys can hammer the next goaltender that comes in, and you need somebody to blame, because when you're stuck in the corner, guess who gets the blame all the time? It's the goddamn goaltender. Let me tell you something, Boston fans, Red Sox fans out there. For the longest time, did you like shit on Ted Williams? You know, that guy that's in the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame, and just an unbelievable career. But did you give him shit like, yeah, he was a good baseball player, but he couldn't win the big one? You know, it's like, come on, give me a freaking break. You guys are just, you need a polarizing freaking person to freaking attack all the time. We're a very, very selfish, spoiled fan base throughout all four major sports. We expect excellence, and when you win, it's awesome. But when in the down times, it's not so good. You just go off the handle and blame just an individual when you should be blaming the team. The team needs to be blamed, not Tuukka Rask. Blame Brad Marchand for that stupid ass shift that turned around and got a goal. Blame somebody like that, but that was a team effort. So tired of the Tuukka talk, and we'll see what happens. But not shocked at all. You know, it's just a very reactionary fan base that just goes off the rail sometimes. So that's my rant.
Heather, what do you think about Tuukka and the fans and their disdain for him?
Oh my, I responded when Evan first, because that was I guess a survey that gets sent out to the media, whatever. There's all sorts of questions, but he happened to put that clip out, and I just said, I'll never understand this fan base. And someone who is very anti-Tuukka apparently responded to me. I didn't really get in a chain, but it popped off a chain of typical Boston Bruins, Tuukka versus Tuukka. So then so I would like to say, first of all, statistically, he's the best goaltender you've ever had. So that point is moot. Okay. You can get into the argument about winning the cup or not. So that's all I had said, because this guy is very win the cup. That's it. Whatever. Something like that. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not quoting because I don't want to look it up. Who cares? But then if people come to the defense, I didn't have to come to the defense, because I'm not going to defend Tuukka, because the way I feel about it is he is the best goaltender. I like Tuukka. There are reasons to get mad at your goaltender every now and then. Do you know what I mean? But this perpetual, Tuukka sucks. He's one of the best goaltenders in the last 15 years. He's definitely the best Bruins goaltender statistically. Or even one of the comments, he didn't win the cup. Because someone said his name's on the cup. Oh, did he win that? How many games did he play? And I said, he didn't have to, because Tim Thomas was on fire. But back then, goaltending was different. You didn't go, let him rest. You rode the goaltender until you couldn't. And that seems ridiculous to me, because as much as Tim Thomas indeed was the backbone of why they won in 2011, like Mark said, there are 22 people on that bench. Tuukka Rask also didn't lose in the last minute and 30 seconds in 2013. I mean, I love I won't even name them, but the defensemen on the ice, but no one's yelling at them. No one's mad at the rest of the team that didn't finish it out. I mean, I'm mad at Brad Marchand too from 2019 more than I am at Tuukka, because he was not the reason. There were 3 people who showed up to play Game 7 that day, and Tuukka was one of them. So be mad at somebody else sometimes, because when this team's a hot mess, hammer Tuukka when he deserves it. But this perpetual 30% of the crowd just does not understand. You are so lucky to have Tuukka Rask. There are teams that would pay Tuukka $13 million because their goaltending is such a mess. They don't even have a tandem. They don't even have a half a goalie, let alone a whole goalie plus. I don't know. It's just ridiculous to me, but predictable. Like, what is wrong with us? We're just, again, I love us. I am one of us, but we're all insane. I really think we're insane. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Real quick, I just want to touch on how reactionary this fan base is. Is like when Dan Vladar had to go in for the terrible performance that Yaroslav Halak did that night, accompanied by a pretty bad Bruins team that particular game. I mean, they really hammered on him right there. It's like, oh, great, this guy can't stop a puck, and he's our future. It's like, oh my, are you serious? You put an early 20s goaltender that's still developing in a high pressure situation like that, and try to freaking salvage any of that game. I'm sorry, and the guy was coming on 2-on-1s, and they were freaking scoring on him. What could he do? But you already set the base for the hatred of the next one coming in, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. This kid needs more NHL time, not just a playoff game where he comes in to salvage what's left. So the fan base drives me nuts with their lack of intelligence. I'm not the freaking smartest hockey guy in the world either, but I'm common sense. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I think they don't. Sometimes you just don't think rationally. There's so much passion and intensity in how Bruins fans think about their team that I think that sometimes they just get clouded and they don't think straight. Like they lean on the old narratives. You know, it's the Jacobs fault. It's the Harry Sinden. They're cheap, which is wrong. And then there's the Tuukka Rask is not. Tim Thomas won, but I'll tell you this about Tim Thomas. There's two things about him. One, he wasn't great in the entire playoffs that year. The first series against Montreal, they almost lost, and he wasn't very good. And then he started to pick up steam in second round, and then of course against Tampa Bay and against Vancouver, he was very good. He stood on his head a lot, but he also had an excellent defensive core in front of him, like the best defensive core in the league. Dennis Seidenberg played out of his mind in that whole playoffs. So that's a better defensive core that this defensive core is right now, and certainly more veteran, more experienced. And Chara Chara 9 years ago, which is much different than Chara today. Mm-hmm. And how does Jake DeBrusk not enter this poll? I mean, it's just asinine. Like, how do you not think? For me, my top three major underachieving disappointments would be Jake DeBrusk, number one. And then you'd have like the Carson Kuhlman, Anders Bjork group that we've been hearing about for a couple of years now, who don't improve and don't progress and need to, because they need to fill those spots. So that's another disappointment. And I really wouldn't even, and then I'd probably have Chara like third, only because, and not really to his own fault. I mean, he's older but he severely declined this year. This is the first year where he showed a lot of decline. And that was unexpected to me. I thought he'd show some, but not to the point that he did this year. So that was a disappointment. But other than that, I mean, Jake DeBrusk is on the top. Tuukka Rask doesn't sniff this thing, and it's just unbelievable to me. And I don't know how you keep DeBrusk off it, because he was the biggest disappointment to me, and I don't think it's close, because he needs to be better. He needs to be more consistent, and he needs to fill out that second line and help David Krejci. And, again, here's another thing, is that Tuukka Rask and David Krejci are not the typical Bruin personalities, typical Bruin players. They sort of have they're European. They have a different personality, different sort of cultural differences, that they're not grinders. And, it looks like they take some time off, and they're not balls to the wall, blue collar, run through a wall for you. So they take the most heat, it seems, Krejci and Rask, when things go wrong, and they don't get all the credit they deserve from all the fans too. And call it what you will, but it's just true. And they'll back Brad Marchand to the end of time, even though he does stupid things, takes stupid penalties, takes stupid chances he doesn't need to take. They always support him and make excuses for him. But the minute David Krejci coughs up the puck or does something that looks, less than top effort, they're all over him. So that's just how it is with Bruins fans, and it makes me angry. And Tuukka takes too much blame when he shouldn't even be anywhere near this poll. It's just insane to me. All right, next topic. Retro jerseys, another thing that pisses me off. Top three you like and number one that you hate. All right, Heather, which ones do you like?
All right, so I'll start by saying I think most of them are underwhelming, just generally. Like, okay, is this any different than what normally you would be wearing? Not really. Okay, so, but I love Colorado's. And I understand it's weird because some teams were really older, obviously we know that's the Nordiques, but I feel like Colorado has always done a good job. Even I was in Colorado in 95, when the franchise was really opening and whatever, really going over, they've always honored the colors of it. They've never pretended like the Carolina Hurricanes only want to be the Hartford Whalers when it suits them. You know what I mean? Where Colorado has always, I think, even the colors kept the Nordiques with them, aren't, similar color schemes. So I loved theirs. And of all of them, that's the one that I would waste the $240 on if I had it. I really like the Kings. I like that they match the Lakers. I know that's stupid, but I do like the throw. It is Lakers. I mean, for Kings fans and Lakers fans, I'm sure it's very exciting for them to have those kind of jerseys. And I do actually like the Minnesota Wild one. I know a lot of people don't, but I actually did like that. I like it better than their actual outfits, but that's just me. The one I hate is Detroit, because I feel like Detroit's already having a shitty enough year being a member of the NHL and of a storied franchise. This is you're going to cough up for them, which is basically a white fucking practice jersey and a red. Like, it's one of the most iconic logos in sports. Like, it's been around 100 whatever years. I'm so disappointed. I also have to say, I'm partial Calgary. They're my West team, right? But I hate the dragon. That's the Pooh Bear / meth bear to me of Calgary. That shit can be on the shoulders, but no, why are you doing this? Don't do this anymore. Then most of them, I mean, some of them were interesting, like Arizona, but most of them were like, fuck. But I did not hate ours the worst. I will throw that out there. So go ahead. Who else? What do you guys think?
I liked Minnesota's. I thought that was a pretty eye-catching one. I don't mind the Bruins. A little bias right there. And the other team that I really and hate me for it, but I do like the Canadiens jerseys. I like the blue. I like the reverse. It's just I don't know. And one more that I did like is the New Jersey Devils.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of brought it back to the old Scott Stevens and Mighty Brodeur day. Shout out to you, Heather, for the Mighty Brodeur. You know what I mean? So, no, there was some good ones, like some bad ones too. Like the Dallas Stars, it was terrible. It's like, stop with the all white. It's terrible. And yeah, the Detroit Red Wings were very practice jersey-esque. So that's my thing. But again, this is probably something that the league needed, and so get some interest and spend some money to try to recoup some losses. So it's smart to do, but it's also a moment when you want to slap some people's hand and just say no.
Right. Top three for me: Colorado Avalanche, Quebec Nordiques. I love that. I love the retro, the true retro. I love the fact that you've worn something like it before. Brings you back to those days in the early 80s of the Stastnys and Michel Goulet and them. I like that one. I like the Hartford Whalers, of course, New England team that is now defunct, and love those old Ronnie Francis, Kevin Dineen type. I love those Carolina Hurricanes, Hartford Whalers ones, and I love the Kings, like you said, the purple and gold. Again, that brings me back to the 80s of, Luc Robitaille and Bernie Nichols and those guys. Love those jerseys. Love the Devils green. Love the Andy Brickley, old late 80s Devils. Love those too. I really like I did like the Canadians too. I see that. And I like the Maple Leafs. I like those old sweaters with the laces and the Maple Leaf logo. It's old school. I absolutely cannot stand the Mighty Ducks. It looks like
Nope, that's another one I hate.
Oh my God, it looks like an 8-year-old drew it on a scratch paper. stuck it on the front of the thing. It's
It
unbelievable.
does too. It's terrible. It's so bad.
There's no color to it either. It's just like a sketch of a thing that it looks just horrific. I don't understand why they would do that.
Blackandgoldhockey.com and Bruins Jacked Up Hockey Podcast host Jack Gottsell absolutely loves them. And I think, yeah, he absolutely loves the Ducks one because it brings him back to a stupid cartoon when Ducks play hockey and they fight crime.
First of all, it was a very popular cartoon for his set. Because he's like my cousin Stephanie's age. So they're younger than us. Like we were a little older when Mighty Ducks came. You know what I mean? We were so I get that. I personally think they should have just had the classic original Mighty Ducks. Like, when they first came in the league, very recognizable. People would just hockey fan kind of want to buy it up. Like we talked about. The one I did forget about, I did like too, was I love the Lady Liberty because it's close enough to the Rangers logo that you recognize it as the Rangers automatically. But I also love the Statue of Liberty.
Big fan of that.
I like that too. Yeah, but that Ducks one just and I'm with you. I don't like any type of dragon, any type of just I don't like silly kids stuff like on there. I just don't do that. I mean, it needs to be more classic. It's retro, meaning throwback, meaning we've worn something like it before. I'm growing on the Bruins thing. I think I just need to get past the fact that they're not doing just the old 80s thing. And the gold does look pretty good. It looks better than the Pooh Bear gold thing that they wore in the late 90s, whatever it was.
Agreed.
So I agree with that. But anything like that has like a dragon or the Flames one or the Panthers one. I mean, there's some ones out there that just no caricatures on there. It looks silly. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. For $275, I'm not buying it. So
just to clarify, is that a dragon or is it a horse?
No, I think it's a dragon blowing fire. Like a fire dragon.
Yeah.
Because it kind of looked like a broad horse. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's another thing. If you don't know what it is, then they're not succeeding.
Well, it is the Saddle Dome, and it is Calgary, and they're known for their
But I think that's why it's I don't know. It could be, but I always assumed I thought it was a dragon because they had that jersey before, that logo. For their third jerseys or something. I always thought it was a dragon, but they drew it in the style of the horse, kind of as a nod to the Stampede. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. What do I know?
I'll have to reach out to some Calgary folk and get some.
I'm pretty sure though that it is, but just the style of the drag, they made it the kind of, so it's like a horse dragon, a fire horse. I don't know what the hell it is, but should not be on the front of your jersey. That's all.
Excuse me.
Right. All right. Before we go to break, we'll sneak in Inga's Tale of Two Twitter reply chains. And Heather, I'll let you take control of this one.
Okay, so like the first one was with the Evan thing and just like, man, I hate other Bruins fans sometimes, but it's funny. Like I like watching us fight with each other because again, we're so just here or here. This is how I am. There's no reasoning. There's no, let's come to an agreement that maybe Tuukka sometimes sucks, but overall I'm happy he's our goaltender. No, it's like, you're wrong. It's like worse than politics sometimes, I swear to God, with Bruins fans. But then on the flip side, when the new retro jerseys came over, I had flippantly responded to the Vegas Golden Knights, like, how does a team that's only been around a handful of years even do retro, right? So not really in a, like, I was being a little bit of a brat, I'm not going to lie. But I also am interested because I don't know anything about, like, Vegas hockey. Like, oh, what the hell? Like, I'm an elitist Yankee snob. Like, I barely acknowledge hockey west of the Mississippi. I'm just saying. So it was nice because their fans, they did not like, oh, you're so stupid and ignorant. Now, clearly my logo, they would know I'm a Bruins fan or whatever. So they could have easily opened up a, like, don't be
can of worms.
Kind of, fight, but they didn't. They were very respectful. And you know what I learned is that the Vegas jersey actually is a throwback to the IHL Thunder with different colors and also the ECHL Wranglers. Don't really know what that means, but I would like to say thank you to I didn't write down your names, but Vegas fans who respectfully started fighting amongst each other about something, but not in the way, like we'd be like, what the fuck, guy, you're so wrong. That's not even how it happened. They're like, actually, they did not sell out the billion thing or whatever. But thank you to all the Vegas fans who gave me a nice other team interaction because really I'm only around other like fan bases that are jerks like us. So, like, I don't know. No, but I thought that was an interesting fact. I'd like to share it. So see how on hockey Twitter people, we can actually have a useful exchange of information and even chirp a little without going crazy. It's okay. That was it. That was the tale of two Twitter chains. Bruins Twitter chain, Tuukka Sasaki is golden.
Oh, yeah.
Tuukka Rask is the man. Respect him. Hall of Fame goaltender. No, he's not. He's the worst goaltender ever. How can you even say that? He's never won the cup. He's never going to win the cup.
I think I'm going to put a poll out, and I'm going to put, like, who's your most hated Bruin? I'm going to put Rask and Krejci and Jeremy Jacobs. I'm going to put them all and see like, just they're not even going to be able to pick when I have like all the above was the last one. Yeah, that's crazy. So we're about the hour mark. We'll and Mark has some words about the store next door.
Yes, we are going to take a quick break and hear from the store next door. Please go to thestorenextdoor.ca and buy some awesome stuff. It is the holidays, and I'm sure that these guys will get an item to you before they ship internationally, and they are awesome people. And it's all hockey related, old hockey sticks into furniture and other great items. So please go to thestorenextdoor.ca. They're a Yarmouth, Nova Scotia company. Check out their website. And if you happen to be there, buy something. It's because it's for a great cause. So we'll be right back.
There's a lot of people with disabilities that can't just go out and find a job. So we set out to create a business to fill those needs, one stick at a time. The Store Next Door Gift Shop is a Yarmouth-based manufacturer and retail outlet store. So we make great ideas that any of our employees come up with, and we reuse and recycle as much as possible. Our most popular item is probably our hockey furniture. We take broken hockey sticks and turn them into different products. We go through a lot of hockey sticks, a whole lot. Considering that it's only been a year and we're shipping internationally, I think that's been a huge success. Most people's reactions are, wow, you do this here? We don't accept can't here. Everyone here learns in different ways, but we want to give everybody every opportunity to find exactly what works for them. There's nothing better than when a customer buys something and then one of our employees say, I made that. They have meaningful lives and build things they can be proud of and get a paycheck for it. I'm Amy Acker, and we change lives one job at a time.
And we're back on the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Just heard from the great folks at the storenextdoor.ca. Please go over to the Store Next Door website and order something cool because you're helping out a great cause. So we are back, and we got still a ton of freaking topics we got to go over. But Matt, lead us the way, sir.
Yeah, the Hockey East having some difficulties. Had to cancel BC. I think it was BC UNH. Had to cancel some games over the weekend because of COVID positives and just sort of being apprehensive to start the season off correctly. There was a game between UConn and UMass, I believe. The game that UMass had won 5-1. So it's really going to be a difficult sort of opportunity for Hockey East to try to plug their way through. ECAC is down to 4 teams left. I think I saw last. Yeah, Ivy League is gone, and then some other ECAC teams have opted out. So only 4 teams left there. So it's going to be difficult in the game of hockey and college hockey to continue a fairly consistent season here. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. We'll start with Heather on, do you think college hockey can actually muscle their way through a season, or at least what looks like a season, and how is it as a fan to see some teams not playing, some teams playing less games than others? Can they have a Frozen Four? It just doesn't seem like, from a fan's perspective, sort of takes some of the steam out of it. I know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like get all pumped, and then just like I was worried would happen before it even got dropped, the puck got dropped. They had already canceled the UNH in Maine, which is a bummer in itself, like to know, you know what I mean? Like that was a great opener. And again, because the men and women are mirroring each other, mostly their opponents will mirror each other. That cancels the women's hockey too. And I just don't know. If we're already canceling games, I'm sure there's flexibility. I know they have this like double playoff, like kind of elimination, maybe to make up kind of 4 games that they might lose, but I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to go forward. Like I said, right now, New England states aren't allowed to travel to other New England states. And how do you pull off Hockey East with most, you know what I mean? Like it's not, even if you could pull off something with the closest teams to each other and maybe kind of did like mini pods and just kept having them play each other. And then maybe it'll lighten up a little. You can switch the schedule around that way. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be able to happen. And then what do? That's a whole other level of affecting hockey from top to bottom that's going on. I don't know. And it's going to not, it probably won't work out overall in the NCAA because, like you said, there are teams dropping out still at this point. There are teams that have already lost. And things right now seem to only be getting worse, like heightening travel concerns and things like that with COVID-19. And college campus is a hotbed. So even if you can keep your players isolated mostly, you can't not expose them to the rest of the college campus or the city of Boston or Providence or whatever. So I as a fan, I almost wish that we would rip the Band-Aid off and just say it can't happen. But at the same time, if we can get 15 games of all these teams get 15 games, and that would also make my heart very happy for the players themselves and all these schools. Because some of these schools, like we live in the United States, so a lot of schools depend on football as their big moneymaker. But there are some schools like Boston University or Wisconsin or Michigan or whatever, they also depend on their hockey because they are powerhouse teams that can get a lot of sponsorship and stuff. So I don't want the kids to be in limbo, but I also think that in the end, if they decide that the end of December, that never mind, we can't do it, then what was the point? You know what I mean? I'd rather them just work out, maybe train, whatever. They could do lots of training some other way, figure it out, maybe things lighten up and you can get back to a shortened schedule. But it's just disheartening because I want the kids to play more than anything because they work very hard to become D1 hockey players, and they need that, everybody's had it ripped from them. And I'm sure it hurts them the same way it hurts my kid when he couldn't go to his game because we had to shut a rink or whatever, and as a fan, I just really I like on Friday and Saturday, you throw on and there's Hockey East on NESN or whatever you're watching it on. And it's just disappointing for everyone all around. Now I'm bummed out. Thanks for bringing this up. Why'd I put this on there?
I don't know how much, you love watching hockey, obviously all sorts of different levels of hockey. And this is just another, I just don't see them being able to get through a season with the spiked numbers and flu season in full gear here for at least another couple months or so. It's going to be really difficult to have a season right in the midst of this.
Yeah, it sure is, and it's tough. It's just the times that we're dealing with, and this COVID crap. It's just continuing to just dismantle great programs. But for me to bring it back to a Bruins thing, I really wanted to watch Trevor Kuntar's first game at Boston College over the weekend when they were set to play I think a home and home or a double session with UNH. So I was a little disappointed in that. I was kind of looking forward to it, but then I found hockey elsewhere in the USHL. I watched Mason Lohrei last night and Jake Schmaltz, and been watching a lot of Michigan with Beecher and Becker. So I ordered the Big Ten Network. You guys should too if you do. It's really good. So it's just unfortunate that things are happening like this in these times, and I'm with Heather with that. You want to keep these kids up and running with skating and just to keep the development going. You don't want a speed bump like COVID to put a ripple effect. It puts a ripple effect in everybody's lives, but when you're trying to get away from the COVID talk all the time and try to go to your happy place, it's very unfortunate. So
it is difficult because I'm a hockey guy. I used to go to BU games all the time when I was a kid, and during their heyday of the Amontes and all those great, the McGeckerns and all those great players they had at BU. And it's difficult for the large majority of those kids who this is the end of their hockey careers. A lot of them won't go on to play pro. And if you're a senior, who's really been, like Heather said, just working your whole life for this year, and it's just so demoralizing to college kids and high school kids who work so hard and really have passion for it. And this could be the end of an organized, playing hockey in an organized fashion at a high level. just really difficult. And I hope that they can work their way through it. But with more and more teams opting out, and all it's going to take is an outbreak on a team to shut it down. And so I don't know. I'm hopeful that they can work their way through it and bubble themselves in their own way there. I liked Heather's idea of having like the city teams maybe play a few weekends just to get some games in and stuff. But again, what are you playing for? There's no real. Is there a means to an end at the end with a tournament and that sort of thing? So it's still not a great scenario. But
no bean pot. No bean.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
So there's another thing. You're a senior at BC or BU, and Beanpot is one of the big reasons why you go there is recruitment, and and you can't play, and the Beanpot is it's just not a great situation, and I feel like the young people are getting sort of screwed in the end because not a lot of young people are really getting super sick with it, and I think it's hard for them to understand why they can't play. Because they're young in the sense of immortality and everything, and they feel like why can't we play if we're not really in a huge danger? And it's a lot of confusing thoughts that go through your head, and I can understand. So anyway, the next topic is the Jakobs squared off. Jakob Sporl and his team squared off against Jakob Lauko, two Bruins prospects. Lauko ended up actually scoring a really nice goal to break a 1-1 tie in that one. And Mark, we'll start with you and your thoughts on the two Jakobs. I know that Sporl, I've seen mixed reviews. He's had some good games and some bad games and some inconsistency, it looks like. And then Lauko came in gangbusters with a lot of sort of hype after the draft. This could be the type of Bruins player that you really love. And then he sort of flattened out and didn't really – he had some injury problems and things, but it seems like he's starting to turn the corner and progressing into the player that they thought they might have.
Yeah, and let's hope that it comes to fruition. I'm still high on Zboril, even though that he was a first round pick and kind of a disappointment in 2015. But maybe some kids need a little extra time to learn the system and so on. So he'll certainly get his chance. And as a Twitter follower, Cam Brommel, who does a fantastic job of letting Bruins fans know what's going on overseas with these players on loan. I think Zboril had a game or two that were not very good, like Matt said, but he's starting to come around. So, and for Lauko, he's just a spark plug of a kid, a good prospect in the system. Just riddled with injuries last year. Hopefully, he turns the page on a health perspective. Concussions and the World Juniors accident when he was just on the ice for less than a minute in his first shift. He just tears a tendon, I believe. So, there's high expectations for him because he's so fast and so crafty with his skills. So, I still believe that he needs another year or two in the AHL. He certainly can do that with his entry-level contract. So, but I wouldn't rush a player like him. Still getting used to the North American game. I know he played in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League with the Rwanda Huskies and won a Calder Cup with those guys, but was injured at the end of that. And he rose the cup, but he wasn't able to play. And last year in the AHL, you saw some really good things. So solid step for him. I think he's definitely going to be a solid piece in the Bruins' future, but nothing to be rushed right now. Let's take some time with this kid, get his overall game. His speed's there, his skills there. Now it's just that two-way style. You want to get the players that have a defensive style too, and not just the north and south, speed game. So. Lots of good things to there's a lot of players over on loan. Like we talked about, Oscar Steen's having a really good year. He's got 9 goals and I think it's 12 games, Matt. Was the numbers on that?
Yeah, 9 goals and 12 and 9 goals, 12 points in 14 games. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of solid stuff going over there. And it's fortunate that those guys are able to play over there and skate, and keep the reps going. So
I don't know, Heather. Bruins are going to need something from Zboril, I think, or it'll be really helpful because of the holes they need to fill. And I think they're sort of counting on Zboril to give him something. So I'm really looking at his consistency level in this league he's playing in now. To hopefully that translates into something in the NHL.
Yeah, especially as, the defenseman, I'm glad to see not just him, but these other kids getting to skate in meaningful games, like in active leagues where things still mean something. They're not just doing training sessions or like, those short kind of quick leagues that are like 8 games and done with, they're, I'm sure it's nice for them to be home back in Europe. But I agree with you. I think that all of them, that Europeans, you have to get used to the North American style, and maybe a little bit of a slipping there, was going back to that style. Do you know what I mean? Because now it's been 9 months or whatever you were playing North American style, which is an excuse, but he is young and he'll grow. But I agree with you. Like, I really like to see him get a little more consistent on what he shows. And I know it's a little different style hockey, but the NHL today is a lot more like European fast style than it is the old school luggy, as much as we all dream in that world that we still are in the big rundown, like you said, trucking kind of hockey that we play on North America. So, but I think it's a good opportunity because you certainly don't want these kids, especially like Lauko or Zaboro, those prospects, because they're the ones you need him, to fill in on that back end. Like, we don't have a choice. Like Vakanainen, Zaboro, Lozon, whatever, they have to sink or swim because it doesn't look like we're going out to get anything else. So 2 of you, at least, depending on what happens with Chara, at least 2 of you. We can assume Clifton maybe has a little bit of an edge up because he's been up a little bit there, but we need you to get better. So hopefully right now they're taking this opportunity to really, and especially Zaboro, like, get down how to think and see the game, because they are playing against a lot of other prospects and players from North America right now, well, in the NHL now, because everyone went home and a lot of them are skating,
Right. And the other thing is when you're coming up here for the Bruins, like I say, a guy like Saboro, you're going to come up and play probably with a young guy. So that's the other thing. You don't have there's not a lot of veteran. I mean, there's Kevin Miller and maybe Chara if he comes back, but there's not a lot of veteran guys on the back end that you can't pair them up with a 30-year-old defenseman who's been there kind of thing, or maybe even pair them up with like a Chara, they play the same side, but or something like that. I mean, you can't. I mean, you're coming up and playing with a Clifton or even Carlos, a young guy. It's going to be interesting to see how the blue line sort of shakes out for the Bruins, and if they go out and get someone, or if they wait until mid-year and then go out and get some, or see what they have, and then maybe use one of these guys as trade chips to try to get some veteran. I mean, there's a lot of financial indecision. There's a lot of unknown in the season. Maybe they forecasted that and thought that maybe we should wait until we sign DeBrusque or take on other contracts until we see what happens with the NHL and NHLPA. So who knows? I mean, again, I hope within the next 3 weeks here, we start to figure that out. And if we don't, then we could be in danger of missing at least some of the season. So I do like what I see, though, from Mason Lohrei. I've seen some of the clips of him, and he really seems to have some tools. And that pick was obviously hammered on as a reach at 58, but it looks like he definitely has some tools and some size and some offensive wherewithal and ability. And the clips that I've seen, and he looks like someone who's noticeable out on the ice as a defenseman for Green Bay when I've seen some of those clips. So I kind of like what I see there. I like what I see from Beecher. He's got great stride and burst, and he's a big kid. I saw him score in front of the net, which is nice to see, on a really nice pass from the
Took
back.
a heavy hit last weekend. He was going through the Arizona State blue line and was trying to cut through them all, lost the puck. So when he went to go reach, he was puck watching, and all of a sudden the guy came right across the blue line, fucking hammered him. He got a charging call, which I kind of think I thought it was a clean hit. I don't think it was predatory at all, but
I agree. I thought it was clean, but I thought it was, in real time, it probably looked worse than it was, kind of thing, because he was reaching and bending and it looked. I think it was one of those that looked so bad that we need to call something.
It's
because
true.
I thought it was clean. You got to get your head up, dude, and coming across the ice like that and losing the puck in no man's land there. Someone's coming hard at you, and that was something, hopefully a learning process there for Beecher.
Yeah, thankfully he was on the ice just for a couple of seconds, but got up and skated on his own. And so, yeah, everything's good.
Yeah, everything's good with him. All right, so our next topic, Inga doesn't rant is what it says on the agenda. She polls. So, all right, Heather, what's on the poll?
Stripper pole?
So I was
I think that's a different type of poll.
So in the attempt to see if there's anything in Bruins land that Bruins fans hate more than Tuukka Rask, because my brain was very rabbit holey this week. So that's why random things are on here that I had put on, whatever things that I had picked. But I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm doing a poll. There's got to be something that people hate more than Tuukka. So I was like, this is what confuses me. Again, this was back to the, like, I'll never understand this Bruins fan base. So we put Tuukka. Oh, first of all, thank you to the 400 something people that voted. I appreciate that, because polls are always better with numbers. So even stripper polls, right, Mark?
Yes.
So we put Tuukka on there, the Boston Bruins, and the other Bruins fans. And I had to pick a fourth, so I picked Ulf Samuelsson. Now, we all know, the three of us know, there's only one correct answer to this poll, and that's Ulf Samuelsson, as people commented a lot under. But I also think that's an age thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there. But it made me happy that Tuukka finally did not win a poll for being the worst amongst Bruins fans. So Tuukka got 22%. The Bruins got 10%. Other Bruins fans 11%, which I thought was funny, because you would think that number would be way higher the way that you see people talking that they hate this team and each other. Like, but that was nice. But Ulf Samuelsson, 57%. And there's so many funny comments. Obviously, most people are like, whatever. But Thomas Nystrom, he had put, it really should be, the other three should really be other Bruins fans and Ulf Samuelsson. And I was like, that was kind of funny. Chris Blackie's like, Turtle Boy, of course. Yes, because we all know. But anyways, if you saw this or you're listening to this, you're like, who the hell is Ulf Samuelsson? First of all, why are you listening to a Bruins podcast if you don't know who Ulf Samuelsson is? He's the bane of this existence here. Like, there. But there was also some honorable mentions of Pat Maroon, the Jacobs, Don Sweeney, anything Tampa Bay related. Guy Lafleur was on there, and the 2015 draft. Interestingly absent from the comment line was the Montreal Canadiens, which saddens my heart. So I thought we could make this into a round robin. We got Ulf won the first round. We'll pick 4 more random things. Like, what do you hate more? You know, so, but although I did like, as Norm pointed out, that Ulf is the no-brainer, but Matt Cook could also be a suitable replacement on this list as assholes that we that's for you, Savvy. Sorry, I'm not flipping you guys off or anybody watching us on YouTube.
Who was the Canucks guy that hit Nathan Horton? He was another guy on my what's his name? Rome? No.
Rome.
Yeah.
Aaron Rome.
Yeah, for the Canucks when he blindsided Nathan Horton, which some would say helped the Bruins win the cup.
Yeah, and Horton went out there and sprinkled the garden water. Oh, what a moment! What a moment!
Oh, great moment. Those games at the Garden, that Cup Finals, when they basically destroyed the Canucks 3 games there, were just electric atmosphere. But I actually put a poll on during the break and on my Twitter. And I put, who is your Bruins whipping boy? And there have been 9 votes so far. 11% said Tuukka Rask, and 89% said Jeremy Jacobs. I also have David Krejci and Zdeno Chara on there. So those are the 4 choices. 89% of the 9 votes already in like 30 minutes have been for Jeremy Jacobs. So I guess there's still that hatred out there for the ownership.
I just voted. It will remain anonymous because this is America, but I will promise to anyone who takes a poll that comes from myself or Matt, all votes will be counted equal and fairly. We don't care who you vote for.
Right. It's no electoral system here. You don't get like 5 points for Heather's
poll. That's funny.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
That's hilarious.
So on Twitter, I don't know, this next item on the agenda is on Twitter. Eric Lindros's daughter, Sophie, I don't know if you saw this. If you go to Twitter, it's on all the NHL Twitter site had it, Twitter page. Sophie is giving lessons on skating. It's the cutest thing in the world. And a little known fact, I was actually at Eric Lindros's Garden debut with the Philadelphia Flyers. I went to that game. I liked Lindros coming out, and he was obviously the #1 pick and a big prospect and a big, a lot of hype behind him. And I remember begging my mother to get me tickets to see on a Saturday night in the Garden. So I did go to Eric Lindros's first game at the Garden. But his daughter's wicked cute, so I don't know if you guys have any comments on that or saw it.
I didn't see it. I unfortunately I missed it. I'll rely on you and possibly Heather to fill me in on what actually happened. My apologies for not checking it out.
It was just like a minute clip. She's like, we're going to teach you how to skate and you got to pump your arms. And she's like jumping. And she's like 6 or 7. She was just so cute. And obviously hockey's in her blood. And it was just very cute. Like, this is the future of women's hockey and just being a cute kid on a Twitter video from your dad or whatever, who happens to have been a former professional hockey player. Yeah. But it was just so cute because one, for me, like I always say, like, I can't, my older son outskated me by the time he was like 6 years old. I cannot fall down, but I wouldn't consider it skating. Like, you know what I mean? Like solid. But this little girl, she's like 6 years old and she's already like jumping. You can put objects in a way, but it was just so cute. And you pump your arms like this, like just little kids are so
Sophie,
cute. So.
She obviously has great bloodlines because her uncle Brett was a NHL player too. And she's obviously going to be playing at some major college or on the USA team at some point later on in life because she has those bloodlines but it's really cute. If you check it out on NHL Twitter had it, they posted it recently. You can check that out or just go on Twitter and search Eric Lindros's daughter, Sophie. And then next item on the agenda is Bruins TikTok. Now, I'm not a TikTok guy. I'm not a snap face. Is that what Bill Belichick calls it? Snap face, TikTok, face talk, whatever it is. I don't do any of that stuff. So I'm going to have you, Heather, tell me what the hell this means.
Okay. So I don't really know. I never had social media until 2 months ago when I got my Twitter account. So I'm not, I have no
pressure
idea.
there to get you
I'm
on Twitter.
understood as the kids have this TikTok thing in which there's little videos, short videos they post, right? So the Boston Bruins apparently have a TikTok page. So let's go back. Do we all remember in the shootout when Brad Marchand skated by the puck versus Philly?
Yeah.
So they put this video out with like music. It is kind of funny, but like it's funny because the Bruins actually hate their own team too, because this is not your like who wants to mock their own players on TikTok. It is funny. They put it to like this song, but it just caught my eye because A, it's hilarious. They're like making fun of Brad Marchand. 2, it's painful to rewatch that because I was so pissed. But it's just funny that our social media content from this team is very strange. Like, you just can't now this is the video you're going to put out, not like McAvoy with his puppies doing a dance or something funny like that. Yeah. It's going to be Marchand missing the puck. But I had said like, what in the actual fuck is going on here? Like what? But it was just funny. So if you haven't seen the clip, it's on Bruins TikTok, but I don't know how to use TikTok. I don't have that. Just so look it on Twitter or Facebook or something. Just Marchand TikTok video. It's funny.
I don't think there's any question that you will not be seeing a Black and Gold podcast TikTok anytime soon. No, that's not my bag at all.
I am not into the TikTok thing. I think what I see on Twitter is enough for me. Some of it's funny, but nothing I would want to get involved in or anything like that. But I mean, good on them to explore all areas of social media to get to promote the team and so on. But yeah, it's just not for me.
Yeah, I just use Twitter to get my Bruins and sports news. I feel like I get the most news there.
I'm a Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn kind of guy, so that's about it.
I'm with you. Ask B&G, Heather, any of those or anyone know?
Sure, we have a couple, and we actually had a topic. I'm sorry. The _ref 43, 5 minutes each for fighting. He had actually, remember how we had asked maybe topics too, but this is just a quick one. Before we do the actual Ask B&Gs, I will count it, even though it doesn't say hashtag Ask B&G.
Yeah, ref, smarten up.
So, and it said, he just said, I actually want this organization to get hammered for not retiring Willie O'Ree's number. What is the reasoning? And we kind of talked about Willie O'Ree, I think last week or the week before or something, but
yeah, he brought it up.
Yeah. And so this was another one, I'm not going to hammer them, but just one more time, like, what is The NHL we get, maybe everyone's not in agreement. Let's retire the number NHL wide. But why has this organization, and I agree with Matt, they have paid homage a little to it. It's not like they ignored his importance, you know what I mean? But why is his number not up in the rafters in our own building?
I don't get it either.
I guess I see the number thing. I just think you should put some sort of acknowledgement in the rafters. Maybe it doesn't have to be the number if you're really hung up on you have to be a great player, Hall of Fame numbers. I mean, he didn't have a very long career. So maybe if you're hung up on the numbers are just for that type of thing, hockey acknowledgments, then I get that. But you should put something up there to acknowledge him up next to the numbers and the banners for the wins. And I don't know, the Adams Division banner still up there. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing. But those up there somewhere. Maybe a picture of him and some of his accomplishments or something nice, a banner for Willie would be great. I think that's great. And I think, if you don't want to do the whole number thing, then I get it, I guess. But, something up there would be really nice to see. And maybe they will at some point. It's who knows? They haven't really had a crowd in there for a while, so maybe they have some things on the plate to do. Maybe that's something that is in the back of their minds. Who knows? So
yeah, I just think it's weird because I get like maybe as a player wise, but he is in the Hall of Fame as a builder, you know what I mean? And
right,
all the other numbers are people who are Hall of Famers, or you know what I mean, or whatever. Can you think of one that isn't in the Hall of Fame too that is also retired by the organization? I can't off the top of my head. I'm trying to imagine the banners real quick. Yeah. But just to wrap it, even if you don't retire the number, his number, he should have one of those. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't officially retire the number, his number should be up recognizing him with his name. And even if it is as a builder more than a player or kind of a nod to both, it does kind of befuddle me. And you'd think, especially in this environment, to like, if a huge conversation this year is like not to get, but obviously like we've had a lot of like protests and things over people's acknowledging the importance of African Americans, and he's Canadian, obviously, but I mean, same thing holds, right? That it just seems like this is almost the right moment to like, yes, they have, given lots of acknowledgement. I have a poster we got at a game one day. It was like an anniversary of something happening with him, when we had gone to a game, but it does just befuddle me. Okay, come on, boys. These are the other Ask B&Gs. Oh, thank you very much, Ref. So what kind of offensive upside do you think Jack Studnicka will have in his first full season? That's from Jacob Abenanti. Abenanti, is that how you say it?
Yeah, he's a new writer at blackandgoldhockey.com.
I've just never said his name out loud.
Great question. Yeah, I think he's going to have he's got some tremendous upside, and hopefully it's going to be on display because it's definitely going to be needed when this Boston Bruins team is looking for that secondary scoring on the top six. I have him locked in as making the team, but he also has the availability to go down to Providence too if needed. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, I know he's going to have a strong head on his shoulders and work hard to get back up at the NHL level. But I have him scheduled in as an NHL roster, probably on the right side. So we'll see what happens from there, but solid prospect and somebody to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like Studnicka. I like what I saw because he was noticeable on the ice in the short amount of time he played in the postseason there. And you could see that he had some real ability, vision, hands, and some really good offensive tools. He's not. I had an opportunity to talk to Billy Jaffe a while back, and his concern with Jack was that he's still very slight and to take the wear and tear of the NHL season. And I can see that. And I think that maybe me included, because I've been the biggest Jack Studnicka supporter to try to get him on one of the top two lines to start the season, is that maybe he's not physically ready to carry that sort of burden. But I also don't want to put him down the third or fourth line with someone who can't really play make, and then his numbers aren't there, and then you start to question whether or not how good he is. Sometimes the Bruins do this. They start a prospect on a line that has no chance to score and then blame the guy for not scoring or producing. So I don't want that either. I think you need to come up, and especially now with Pasternak out to start the year, I'd put him right on that top line with Bergeron and Marchand and just see what you have for 3 or 4 weeks and see if he can produce with those guys. Or if you want to put him with Krejci, you could do that as well, because you're going to have, Marchand and Pasternak at least, and maybe even Marchand for the very beginning of the year, not ready yet. So if that's the case, you have an opportunity here to see what you have in Studnicka. And I like what I've seen in him so far. So I think this might be a good opportunity to do that because of the injuries you have to start the year. So I'm an advocate for doing that. And I think he can potentially be a guy in your own system that could fill one of those needs you really had as a top 6 forward. Instead of going out and spending money on a guy. So it's he's a very important piece to this, I think, as far as filling out the roster and adding another offensive piece. So I don't know, Heather, your thoughts on Jack, but I liked what I saw. And I think that I'll say this, he seemed to have more raw ability than guys like Bjork and Kuhlman and those guys. He seemed to be more noticeable as a top 6 guy.
We're going to need him, but I also am going to need everyone to keep it in perspective of like what you said. I think our expectations are ridiculously high all the time. And although Jack Studnicka is probably going to make a positive offensive impact on this team, he cannot be like the saving grace. If we wanted a saving grace, we should have gone out and got one, you know what I mean? Or we should sign one with whatever we have left. I do think it's an important step for him. I think he's ready to come up and be up, but I don't think he's, filling in on the top line for a week or two is one burden, but like being in the top 2 lines for a whole season is. And I do think he could use another season of seasoning up, but I think he's in a weird position where he's kind of outgrown his role in the AHL, but he's not quite ready for his role in the NHL. So I guess when you get to that point, you got to sink or swim, right? So I expect to see him up on the roster and to make an impact. But my big concern is we very easily can tear down top prospects on this team, especially if we see something good for them for a little bit. And we expect that they're going to always have that consistently all the time, and which isn't so in your first full season. You know what I mean? It's just, unless you are a natural born stud. And I do think he has a really good way to see the ice. You know what I mean? I know you saw a pun on words. Yeah. I think he sees the ice really well, though, compared to, like you said, his contemporaries. Like I think Bjork's got a lot of talent. Talent, but I don't think he can kind of see the move ahead. Or even, I think that's one of Peter Solaric's biggest issues is he can't read play very well or see the ice, overall. So anyways, that's it. You like that, Studnicka? Stud. I know you
that
guys
was so
I
fun.
thought you said Bjork had a lot of Italian in him, and I was like,
I know, I did too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if that's
all right. So one last one. We got Sean Harvey asked us if there's a shortened season, 60 games or something this year. Do you think that the Bruins should test more of their upcoming prospects in the NHL or try to go and win the cup? I don't think we're winning the cup. So I'm going to go with, I'll take the prospects, I guess, and we'll just choke through whatever happens this season.
Yeah, I'm on board with giving guys on a shortened season, giving the vets a little more rest and getting incorporate some youth and so on, and have folks ready for a potential playoff. I'm not saying cup either, but you didn't make any significant changes. The addition of Craig Smith on the right side, it does address a certain need when you're looking at puck possession because his numbers are very good there. He is a 20 goal scorer, and I think he has for the past 5 seasons. So, yeah, you add a little bit of scoring there. But for me, it's just not that big of a move up front. Or you didn't really address anything on the defense, which I still think you need to. Another solid addition, another solid veteran there, regardless if you lose Chara or not. But, yeah, I think this is like 2 or 3 moves away from a cup winner. But it will be a competitive team. And possibly make the playoffs, but you got to do a little bit better in the off season, especially on your first day of free agency when everything's going and you're just making a simple signing. And thank Craig Smith for coming in at a lower cap number than he could have gotten on the open market, so we'll see what happens, but hopefully everything works out regardless of the season coming up and if it's actually going to happen. So, I mean, it's a day by day, week by week kind of thing for this NHL and the NHLPA and what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, I am the look, if you haven't made many moves, you picked up Craig Smith, which is a very widely regarded as a very good move, especially for the money in term. But you haven't really done anything else to change the roster all that much, and you really seem to be relying on these young guys, then you need to give them then that's where you're going. That you need to give them the opportunity. You've obviously said we're going to put our eggs in these young guys' baskets and see what we have, and maybe use the 60-game season just to say, and some fans think that a 60-game modified season with different divisions isn't a real season. Let's just call it. I mean, some people think that way, and that can be rightfully so. I mean, it's not a typical season. So maybe just take this as a sort of a tryout kind of period, or see what you have from your young guys, play as many as you can in different situations, see what you have. And then at the end of next season, and I'm not saying use it as a throwaway season, but use it as a season where you're really looking at what you have in your system. And then at the end of this season, you say, okay, who are we going to continue with and who are we going to move on from? And I would be on board with that if he just came out and sort of said that and told people that was the plan. I think that people would understand for the most part. I mean, you're not going to please everybody, but I think people would understand. I think you get into trouble as an organization when you say one thing and do another. Or you say, like you said, well, we're going to make some major changes to the roster, and we have to be really honest with our roster. And then you made essentially none. So that's where people get irritated, is because you're not being truthful. And I think you can have some transparency here in this time and say, look, this is what we're looking to do because of this. And I think that the majority of people, fans out there, would understand and would at least know the plan and be able to embrace that plan and see how it works, than to say, yeah, we're still trying to win the cup, and then really do nothing that makes anybody believe you're trying to win the cup.
Matt, to touch on that right there, it's like, I don't want the Boston Bruins organization to go as drastic as sending letters out to the season ticket holders, much like what the Chicago Blackhawks did and the rebuild, and what the New York Rangers did, and so on. That's just but at your end of year press conferences, like you mentioned, it's just have better dialogue with your passionate fans and your supporters, and what we do as a sports media company here on a daily basis is feed us the information that we need, and not just leave us in the dark. But certainly don't. In Boston, one thing is very important, is being truthful. And you said that you're going to want to make these moves to be a better team for the next season, and you didn't. Well, I'm sorry. You basically put your own foot in your mouth, and you're up for speculation. When fans have a little outrage. So by doing that, expect the rebound of hate coming at you, because that's certainly what you got.
It almost makes you wonder that Sweeney said that thinking, as a GM, this is what we need to do. And then Jeremy Jacobs was someone, after he said that, pulled him in the office and was like, I don't think we're doing that right now. It almost like there was a swerve there. And then Sweeney never said anything else about it, which leads me to believe that he spoke too soon. And he said something out of context. And then the ownership was like, you know what, now that we're looking at the numbers, not going to happen. And then he tried to get creative with numbers and players and term, and no one was biting. No teams were biting. And he misread the market, which is okay, because it's a different time, and no one kind of knows what the hell's going on. So I wouldn't blame him if he misread it, but I think that might have been the case. He spoke sort of out of context right after the season ended, saying this is what we need to do. And then upon further review, we realized the money's tight and there's uncertainty. Let's not do it.
Yeah. One thing before, Heather, I want to say is what you just said. If Jeremy Jacobs took him in the office and said, no, we shouldn't have said that, then you should have said the same thing to Cam Neely before he did it 3 days later.
Right.
Sorry, Heather, go right ahead.
No, that's kind of what I was going to say, is that I mean, I've expressed how I think Cam and Don aren't on the same page anymore because Neely's been around longer, so his ass is the highest under the fire when it comes to the Jacobs. Even though the thing is, like, the president has a lot more of the behind the scenes dealing with the owner than the GM does, right? He essentially answers to that person. The GM's like the figurehead and the talk. I mean, has the power, but is also just the face that has to be the face of the front office. I do think that although they're not on the same page, Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, judging by those pressers that they did a couple days apart, they sounded like they were towing the party line. You know what I mean? Just like, we're in a rebuild. We have to assess. Everyone's on the table, la, la, la. And I'm not quite sure if it's that Don Sweeney misread the market, but I definitely think that they probably misread what their expectations and allowances would be for this season. And it was too late to take it back. And now Neely and Sweeney's asses are going to be on the fire because the fans are going to expect, like you said, don't say it if you don't mean it. You know what I mean? Don't say it. This and that. This is partly why, even with the Torrey Krug thing, some fans were pissed because they're like, you didn't even go back and say, all right, same offer. You get 3 days to decide. Like, you know, even just like that kind of thing. But I do feel like, I don't know who, but one of them made an expectation that they're not going to be able to keep. And that concerns me because that means that we went in 3 months from like, oh yeah, we're just going to tweak this team to we are in full on rebuild at this point. And I don't even think that's just a pandemic thing. I think it's the direction of this team is they're almost to the end goal with the drafts and everyone, you know what I mean? We've been suffering and we're almost to that end goal of Sweeney's original 3 to 5 year plan. Well, we're a little past that, but not too much farther. And now we're going to blow it up and go a different direction. And that's scary to me just as a fan. So I don't know. We'll see what goes with that, but that's it. Ask BNG. You asked, we ranted, we talked about it. We mulled, we discussed.
Thank you for the submissions too, by the way, and keep them coming. Just use the hashtag AskBNG any time of the week because that keeps us track. We keep track with everything right there. So keep them coming.
Anything that comes in starting the 23rd will apply to next week's hashtag BNG. So if it comes off your brain at 9:00 at night on a Tuesday, just add the hashtag and we'll go back and find it.
Absolutely.
That's what I have to do.
Thanks everyone for doing that. Any this week in Bruins history, Mark?
Yes, this week in Bruins history, November 26, 1975, Bobby Orr scored his last goal with Boston in the Bruins 6-4 win over the New York Rangers. And actually, this brings up a little story and a little promotion too, by the way. But with that being said by Bobby Orr, I just wanted to talk about the book that Russ Conway wrote, and it's called Game Misconduct. And this is about Bobby Orr's agent, Alan Eagleson. And Russ Conway has since passed since last year, I believe. He was a very, very good Boston Bruins writer for the Lawrence Eagle Tribune. And he wrote this book to expose what Alan Eagleson did to Bobby Orr and the corruption of hockey. So I highly suggest you get this book. Russ is, like I said, a great writer, but he was the basic one that really opened the eyes to the FBI and a lot of investigation services to look into this guy and see what he was doing wrong. So kind of like, Bobby Orr's last goal with the Bruins was kind of like the reason why, because this asshole just took advantage of a guy that was just basically a New England legend, a world legend in the hockey community, and could have been an owner of the Bruins. I'm hearing that there was an offer by the Boston Bruins to get Bobby Orr involved in the organization, and Alan Eagleson steered him away because I don't think he was getting a big enough cut on his end or whatever. But I highly recommend you read the book and explore how much of a piece of shit this guy was, and what he did to it. Just an absolute legend and a great guy.
And thankfully, Bobby has done excellent in business ventures and things. So he's been able to rebound. A lot of athletes get taken advantage of and then really struggle afterwards. And and Bobby's been able to persevere through it. So thankfully for that. But that's a book I definitely want to read. I actually have the autobiography Bobby had, and I love this talk about pond hockey. He had a section in there about playing pond hockey, which I think was really cool, just to hear a guy just playing hockey out in the pond, who was, arguably the greatest hockey player ever, just out playing on the pond, and how much he loved that almost as much as playing in the league. And that's really cool to see what type of guy and sort of regular guy he was. So I'll have to check that book out for sure. Just a quick update on my poll. Who is your Bruins whipping boy? There's been 42 votes, so thanks everyone for voting. Tuukka Rask at 26%, David Krejci at 5%, Jeremy Jacobs at 69%, and Connor has not received a vote. So Jeremy Jacobs is the whipping boy so far at 69%. It's on my Twitter at OOB Cards. I also tagged Black and Gold Pod, so it's on for 5 days. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, hop on Twitter.
Yeah, the Tuukka haters aren't awake yet.
Yeah, they're not awake. Yeah, but I'm sure they will be late at night. They'll get a boost when they're drinking.
Oh God,
Blitz. Yeah,
mysterious truck of Twitters.
So it's time to give thanks. I do want to say I give a lot of thanks to the people who read our content on blackandgoldhockey.com. We've seen an enormous amount of views and a spike in views since we've made the changes in the website, and great work by Mark and by I know that Andrew Taverna does a great job for us on there, and there's many people who contribute. We have a whole host of writers. We actually added 3 or 4 new ones lately, so welcome to those folks too. Check us out. We're still banging out articles once a day at the very least, and so check that out. But I just wanted to give thanks to everyone who listens to the podcast, everyone who contributes on by viewing our articles, and also interacting on Twitter, and that good interaction we had, even the positives and the negatives. It's all great because it shows you're listening and reading. So that's my good thanks.
I do want to touch on one thing about the rankings on Charitable. I'm not sure if people know about this, but as podcast content providers, we get emails from people that are tracking our podcast. Now it's a big up and down world. It's nothing consistent, but I do want to mention that our podcast was the 23rd highest on Apple Podcasts at one point, and the first was Spittin' Chicklets. So that's pretty good. I mean, we're higher than Dreger and the Dregs. That podcast, which is a fantastic podcast, and I was surprised that we were ranked higher than that. But it's a ranking of 250 podcasts on Apple Podcasts, and we were at 23rd at one point. So shout out to everybody here. You guys are a fantastic group, and also the support that we get from not our 30 members over the Black and Gold Productions sports media company, but the viewers of our YouTube channel and the listeners on our audio podcast side have just been tremendous. It's been such a great ride, and I can't thank you all enough. So
excellent. Hey, Heather, anything you're thankful for other than, I don't know.
I'm grateful for a lot of things. Firstly, I'm grateful that we got to this point in the year, because it's been a long, long year, and I'm happy to celebrate Thanksgiving with, at least your direct family, because we can't have gatherings this year or whatever, but it's been a long year. So I'm thankful to just, I guess, be here and be able to hang out with you guys every weekend. And I'm super thankful to everyone who supports Black and Gold, and from Mark, from the first episode and articles he was dropping through us becoming an LLC, and just the growth and all the awesome writers and all the people who support us, from our super serious stuff to our silly stuff, like, apparently our new Twitter poll kind of thing we're going to be doing. That will be fun. We'll bounce back and forth putting things out there. So I don't know. I just want to say thank you and happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the States, obviously. And let's watch some football and eat some turkey, and just maybe have one day this year where we're not watching the news and the craziness that elsewhere is going in this country. So, and thank you also to anybody in Canada, but we already thanked you. We already said happy Thanksgiving to you. So you're just going to have to wait.
I'm also going to give thanks to hockey, hopefully coming back in January, because hockey is so great. And of course, it's a lot about what we do each day. I mean, we think about hockey every single day. So Hopefully it continues, and the season begins mid-January or so, like they say, and hopefully, and I know the Bruins will have a good team. It's just a matter of how good and how far they go and what happens with their team. But we've had a really good run here, so I give thanks to having, because I remember when I was younger, there were seasons where there was no chance. You just knew there was no chance the Bruins were going to win the Stanley Cup. They might have had decent teams, but really never thought they'd get to this point. And they've been really good for a long time, and pretty thankful for that. And hopefully that continues. I know we get spoiled by it, but I do remember the old times when we never really had a chance to win the cup. So at least we have chances and we have opportunity, and we have great players to watch. So that's something I like to give thanks to as well. So.
Yeah, and I just want to say, as the founder and CEO of the Black and Gold Productions sports media company, we just want to, it's a blanket statement from everybody here, a group of 30 some odd people. We want to say that we hope that your families and friends all stay safe during these tough times, and, social distancing and so on. But please use the available avenues to connect and to be with one another, because we still need that communication, the love, and the family, and everything like that. So just do it safely, and we'll get through this. Humanity's gonna win in the long run. So just please be safe and enjoy.
And one way to give thanks to us is by contributing on Patreon. Right?
Yes. Oh man, you are starting to become the king of segues.
It is a segue. Yeah.
But we do have a Patreon campaign that we're going on right now. You can go to Black and Gold Hockey. I'm sorry, I always do that. It's patreon.com/Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. And you could have a chance to win one of these. It's a signed, and I know you can't see it on the YouTube right now, but I will put an image right beside Heather, like I always do. But it's a signed Anders Bjork jersey. And this is just $1 per episode. You get involved in the monthly giveaways, and that's what we're doing. We're doing monthly giveaways, as we said in the beginning of the show. We have some other items. We have T-shirts. We have signed pucks. We're going to get some signed images. I'm working with somebody over at a memorabilia company. So we're doing fantastic things, but it's only $1, folks. Get involved. The more people that get involved, the more stuff I'm going to buy to give away. So it's just giving right back to you guys. So I want to thank our financial supporters at patreon.com/Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. You guys have been amazing, and it's so amazing that we're able to do stuff like this. So get involved, tell people, the more the merrier. We just love doing stuff like this. So yeah.
Enjoyed another great episode, everybody. Episode 204. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And you guys too. Hope you have a great day, and hopefully you can at least speak with family, and if you can't see them, maybe FaceTime them or Skype them, or try to spend some time with family, because I know it's difficult right now. I know I can't go down and see my parents this weekend, but there'll be better times ahead, as Mark said. So hopefully everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks again for listening to and supporting the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please share the show with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to and leave a 5-star rating for the show on your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Between shows, help us keep the Bruins talk going by visiting our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, by sending an email to blackandgoldhockeyblog@gmail.com, and by following the show on Twitter @blackandgoldpod.
Peace out.